she worked at a fabric store and she was a crocheter before she learned to knit. And so they had her work in the back of the store.
Oh my gosh. Crocheters go in the back.
Crocheters in the back. Yeah.
Let's take a sip of tea of the town.
Okay, Linda, I have a fun one for you today.
Ready?
It's really interesting, and it is about the beef between crocheters and knitters.
Oh, I'm so excited to go down the rabbit hole in this one because obviously we've done some episodes on the fiber arts community and we know about the beef, but I know nothing about like why, what are we doing here?
Same. And I kept seeing it in comments like there was something beneath the surface. I didn't really understand it, so I decided to do some digging. And this is what I found. Okay. So I'm going to start with a little bit of context.
Okay.
First, I'm going to do an overview of knitting. You know, what is the history? Where did it come from? What's the difference? Because I think we both do not know much.
Nope.
If you've seen our previous episodes and watched our hand signals, I think it's very clear that we lack context.
We are noobs.
We are noobs, and this is what I've learned. So, knitting has been around for a very long time. It likely originated in Egypt around the 10th century, and then around the 14th century, it actually came to Europe through different trade routes. So, it's got a very long and rich history. This is something to know. It's been around for a very long time. And then in the late 1500s, they actually invented the first knitting machine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Wow. That's actually really surprising. I would have thought,
I would have thought
a knitting machine would have been, I don't know, Regency era. That's like, wow.
You would think it'd be more modern, but apparently it was 1589 by William Lee is when it was actually invented. So that was the time that a lot of knitting moved from being like hand done to actually being done by machine. But home knitting became really, really popular during World War II. In the 1950s as like an effort to help kind of support, just making clothing for your community, making clothing for soldiers. So that's where it really started to pick up popularity once again being done within the home.
That's fascinating. I remember when we were learning about history in school, which obviously was a very long time ago, but I remember reading a couple of stories about the different ways that people would make clothing during that time. And one of the things that I remember, I don't know if my memory is failing me, but I do remember a story about how people would make dresses out of flour sacks.
Oh,
so that's where like the sack dress came from. And they actually looked really pretty. Cool.
Totally.
And so people just used, it was all about slow fashion. It was all about, slow fashion is obviously a very modern term, but it was all about, using all the things that you have to create things that are going to enrich your life without using a lot of resources, because obviously there was so much resource going toward the war effort.
Yes.
So that makes a lot of sense that it would kind of like shoot up in popularity at that time.
Exactly. So that's where it came back into the home even after, the machine was invented. And then this is actually just one of the like oldest pieces of knitted fabric that is estimated to have been created around like, the 1100s, 1300s in Egypt. It's in the museum, the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. And I just thought that this was like fascinating.
It's crazy because this pattern, if you put this in front of me, I would not have guessed how old it was.
Yeah.
Like this is something that I feel like you would see today.
Absolutely.
Like from a crafter. It's
Totally.
beautiful. First of all, it's beautiful.
Yes.
And the patterns almost just have the same reflection that they do in like modern knitting, which I freaking love.
I know.
That is so cool.
It looks like it could have been pulled off of a sweater from the 80s.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah.
So I think that's just one thing to keep in mind as we go through this is that it has a very, very rich history. It's much, much older. Yeah. And so there's kind of a lot more, I guess you can say depth to it.
Yeah. Okay. So, what's funny though? I'm looking at this And I'm looking at this and I'm like, is that Z's or N's or S's? And immediately I'm like, what brand is this from? I'm like, was there brands around at this time? Was it someone's initials? I'm like, did they have a knitting business?
I know, and it's so detailed, and I think that's something that surprised me, is that how detailed the craft is in itself.
Yeah.
And so kind of just like an overview of how is knitting done. So knitting is done with 2 needles,
Yes,
and loops that are held across both of the
yes,
needles.
yes.
So you're kind of just like trading yarn from one needle to the other needle. And the way that it's done, it allows for the fabric to be much stretchier. It gives it much better drape, so it's a lot looser. So it works really well for clothing. It also has a much steeper learning curve.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
A lot of people said it was a lot harder to learn, but once you've learned it, it kind of opens up a lot more possibilities because it's so versatile.
That makes sense. I actually did try. I have tried both things. I have tried crocheting and I have tried knitting. I never was able to learn how to knit. But this, keep in mind, this is when I was like young, right?
Yeah.
So like I have not tried in my more recent history. But when I was younger, I think it was maybe 14 or 15, I did crochet and I learned crochet. It's like so easy to pick up and it's so fun. And I did crochet a couple things. I was never good at it, but I was never able to learn knitting. I found, so it makes sense. Like the learning curve is steeper.
Yes.
I'm not the brightest bulb in the shed, but like,
I also tried both and I was terrible at both. So I relate to you in that way where I was just like, these are both very hard things for me.
I was really good at making friendship bracelets.
Yep.
So, and those lizards with beads.
Yeah, the lizards with beads. I remember those. Oh,
those were so much the thing.
we need to bring those back.
Yes, bring back the lizards.
Those
with
keychains,
beads.
they slapped.
They
went
sure
hard.
Did.
But yeah, so that is knitting. And then the other thing to know is that it also uses a lot less yarn, the way that the stitches are structured. Yeah. So there's your overview of knitting. Now let's get into crochet. So crochet is actually a much newer form of fabric art. So this, they believe that it developed in around the 19th century in Europe, and they think that it evolved from this earlier form of fabric arts, which is known as tambour embroidery. So if you know embroidery, there's the loops and then you kind of sew, and it uses a single hook. So they suspect that this was just kind of like a natural progression from that type of embroidery, and that is where crochet comes from. It's hard to really nail it down, though. Yeah. So this is just kind of a rough estimate. And it really picked up popularity in the 1840s, particularly in Ireland during the famine, as part of relief work. So kind of how in the 1950s in the U.S. we see this resurgence of home knitting, we see this in the 1840s in Ireland as part of relief work. And they get really good at crochet. So and this is something to kind of remember that in Ireland in the 1840s, this is where it really starts to take off.
I see. So I'm part Irish. So if this has something to do with feuds of some sort, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Based in Ireland. I'm also very Scottish, which also is clan wars.
Yep.
If there's something in there about that,
people be beefing.
So horse wars.
Yes.
Horse thieving.
Yes.
It's
we are a petty bunch because I am also Irish. So, and then it really picks up steam in the 1980s with this style called amigurumi, and I'll show you that on the next slide. But it's a certain kind of it comes out of the kawaii culture. It's very cutesy, and that's where it starts to pick up steam in the U.S. And then also in the 2000s, we start to see more beginner kits.
Yes,
there's a lot of crochet garments that come out of this time, and then just on social media, we see a lot more people who are talking about crochet.
That's when I started my very brief foray into crocheting.
Yep.
And it was all at that time, all I ever did was hats and scarves, which I feel is kind of a very beginner thing to do. Hats and scarves. But I mean, it's a vibe. And it's very useful.
Yes, absolutely. So I think this is where we really start to see it pick up in the US is from the 1980s to the 2000s. Love. And so this is the amigurumi style of crochet. It's like
I
these,
love it.
yes, it's very, very cute. It's these little stuffed animals. And there's like a lot of kits that you'll find that have this. I found a lot of different YouTube channels that were teaching people this style of crochet. So this is what kind of piques people interest and pulls them in.
Right. It's adorable. I my sister crochets
Yeah.
and she's actually really good at it. And she's made stuff for me, which I obviously have. Like I have this like unicorn beanie.
Love.
It's so I'll have
Love.
to show you. It's so cute.
Yes.
And then she's made like a bear one that it's kind of a blend between a beanie and this type of like she's made for my son. She made a bear one, and
They're so cute.
yeah, she
love
made
that.
my son when he was just a baby a bunch of these like loveys that he slept with, and he like hung on to them. It was
so sweet.
real cute. So anyway, she's really good, and
Yeah.
she does a lot of this stuff, and it's just so adorable.
I think that's why people love it, is because like how can you look at that and not love it?
Yeah.
And so they have these kits that people can start to crochet, and it has this style, and I think it just naturally lends itself to people being like, okay, well, now that I've done this, what else can I make?
Yeah.
And so we start to see this boom of crocheting within the US. And here's just kind of like a quick overview. So with crocheting, unlike with knitting, it's done with one hook and not two needles. And so you're building by pulling loops through loops through loops. And the way that this is done, it builds a thicker, more structural fabric. So it's not necessarily as like versatile as knitting is, where it lays really nicely. It has more structure to it, but there's plenty of things that you can wear that require structure.
And better for cute little animals.
And better for cute little animals.
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
It's also a lot easier for newbies to pick up on.
Check.
Yes.
Can confirm.
It's also a lot more forgiving. This is another thing that I learned is, so with knitting, because you have all of these loops that are stretching across your two needles, if you miss a stitch,
You have to like
you
go.
have to go all the way back. Whereas with crocheting, it's much more forgiving, because you're not connecting it to the full row beneath it. You're just connecting it to the stitch that's next to it. So
Right.
if you miss up one, then you're just going back one versus having to like unravel. But the downside is it uses a lot more yarn because of the way the stitch is structured. It's like a bigger stitch. And so you have to utilize a lot more yarn for your project.
Makes sense.
All right. And then here's just kind of like a side by side to give you an example. So on the left, we have crochet. On the right, we have knit. You can see the crochet piece is much more structured. The knit piece is a little bit more flowy. So that's kind of like a good example. All right.
Both are adorable.
Both are adorable.
I would wear both of these
Absolutely.
things. Love it.
Now, the beef. I want to know. What is the beef?
Why?
Because I'm like, when we were getting these comments in our other videos, I'm like, I just don't like.
I know. I mean, we're not, when we're learning about these new communities, a lot of times we don't know a whole lot about it. We're just looking at the incident and giving our thoughts and opinions. And so we learn so much from people in the comments that are telling us like more details, more context, more, and it's so great.
Yes.
Because like I love learning about
Same.
this news, and so I'm fascinating to know like why.
Absolutely.
In my brain, I would think like, okay, there's probably a lot of people who do both. There's probably a lot of I don't know, camaraderie because they're in the same kind of fiber arts world.
You think.
So what's
the beef? All right. First, this I saw on TikTok. This is funny. This is not necessarily the beef, but this girl was saying like, well, if your grandma's a knitter, you're a knitter. And if your grandma's a crocheter, you're a crocheter. So it was kind of this like turf war type thing.
Right.
And as much as I wish that this was the beef, this is not the beef.
Oh, okay. Then.
The beef goes a little bit deeper than this. We're in the 1840s.
Oh.
Remember how I was talking about the Irish famine?
Yes.
And the relief work. This is really where we start to see the like seeds of discord being planted. Oh my gosh. Because
what could be more important in a famine than like determining whether
you're hungry or not? Well, apparently the beef between crocheters and knitters.
Okay.
So Ireland, like crochet became very, very popular in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things around this time that was really popular was lace.
Yeah.
Particularly there's this Venetian needle lace. And that's what we actually see on the left side.
My grandmother did a lot of this stuff. I obviously was not skilled enough to do it or pick it up. She also didn't like me very much, I don't think. But
Didn't help.
beside the point, she was lovely. So I'm very familiar with this type of style, and I think it's gorgeous. So gorgeous.
Yeah, exactly. And it was very, very popular during the time. But obviously, it's a very expensive fabric because the needlework is so detailed.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people in Ireland that are picking up crochet, that are learning this, that are doing it for crochet or for relief work, they figure out how to imitate it through crochet. And this is actually what we see on the right side.
It always comes down to class warfare.
Yes, it always does.
Oh my gosh, this is about class and money.
It is about class and money.
Okay, let's do it.
So this
oh my
is
God.
really the root of it. But as soon as like this becomes popular in Ireland, we see this pushback from knitters who are saying like, they're basically calling it like a dupe. We start to get this real versus imitation.
It's always about the dupe.
It's always about the dupe.
It's always about class.
It's always, yes. And so we're seeing these kind of, so this is where we start to see this divide where like knitting is trying to kind of set itself as like we have this rich history.
Right.
There's a lot of craftsmanship. There's a lot of technique.
It's like old money, new money.
Exactly.
Beef.
Exactly. So this is where we start to see.
Well, old money, no money, really.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
This is where we start to see that kind of pushback against crocheting because they're replicating this beautiful, intricate work that comes from knitting, and the rich people
like
don't
a
like
knockoff.
It's a knockoff
of the expensive toil technique. I see.
That is exactly what it is. So here's kind of, after I kind of dug in a little bit further, I think there's perceptions of knitters and there's perceptions of crocheters that grew out from this. Okay. And you know me, I love dogs. You also love dogs. So I was like, okay.
More than people, 99.9999% of the time.
And it is, yes. It is so much easier for me to like compare using something that is similar to or something that I really love. Yeah. So this is like if knitters and crocheters were dogs, this is what I would view them as. Okay. So knitters are like sleek greyhounds. Yes. They are divas. Okay. So their perception, and again, this is all said with love. This is all said with like I'm just trying to pick up the perceptions from the different communities based off of the comments that I'm reading, based off of the craft Reddit pages.
And no one of these kind of stereotypes ever fits anyone. Stereotypes by definition do not fit everyone.
Exactly. This is just like the generalized, this is the vibes that I'm picking up from the community. So
especially from like an outsider's perspective, like you can kind of look in and say like, okay, you pick up on a little bit of flavor.
Exactly. So knitters are seen as very highbrow. It also tends to be a bit more exclusive in the craft world because it's so technical and because there's a steeper learning curve. There's not as many people around doing it, so it's kind of just seen as this like more higher
specialized
tier.
higher tier.
Exactly. It's also a much slower process. So when you're building things out, like when you're knitting things, it takes a lot longer than crocheting. Like crochet projects tend to be you
can bang it out.
Exactly. But because it's such a technical process, it's a much slower creation.
And as you said before, like if you make a mistake, there's more
have to go back and they're also very drape obsessed. So they're obsessed with how things lay on you and like the stretch and kind of that the look that it gives you.
There's more variables, right? Like because the structured version is always going to be structured, so there's less to think about, like what yarn are you using, how tight is your stitch, all those things. I'm assuming those types of things would matter and like achieving some specific result. So
exactly. So and then the last thing is like their pet peeve is hearing is that crochet.
Oh my gosh, I get that. Like I kind of do get that because if crochet is the easier, I mean, is it easier? I think so because having tried both. Easier to pick up maybe is the better way to say it. like easier, like lower
Yes.
entry point because you can pick up like doing it really quickly, at least in my own experience.
Yeah.
But I understand that because if it is the thing that takes you more time, energy, and effort, and they're like, oh, is this the cheap thing, the like knockoff thing, the like easier thing? You're like, no.
Yes, exactly. So there's this kind of like frustration of like, no, I have spent all this time on my craft.
Yeah.
And like for you to just kind of, is that crochet? Like there's
Like, yeah.
So there's
I
that
get
little
that.
cut
I
fee.
do get that.
Mhm.
But it's like has it's the same thread if you pull it. It's the same thread
It's the same
as
thread.
like fancy lace
Mhm.
versus the poor man's Irish famine scarf that we're doing.
Yes.
So I get it.
Exactly. So this is my perception of knitters. This is the general perception.
Yeah.
I see them as sleek diva greyhounds.
And I love this dog.
Yes. Very just regal, beautiful.
Mhm.
We love it.
Has opinions about the world.
Yes.
They should be respected.
Absolutely.
And this dog deserves all the scritches that are available.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, crocheters I view as fuzzy little Pomeranians, which I love Pomeranians, okay?
I love this.
They're kind of seen like the vibe that I get is that they are chaotic good.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
because crocheting is a bit more like flexible, it's not as rigid when it comes to the actual technique that's used.
And a lot of the products are like cutesy.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can be
Yeah.
a bit more chaotic creative with
Yeah.
it, and so they're seen as kind of the chaotic crafters
Yeah.
of the world, you know?
I'm assuming also you can do a lot more experimentation because
Yeah.
if you can produce things faster, you can try like variants and kind of like, oh, this works, this doesn't work. This,
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. It's a very adaptive craft.
Yeah.
They're also very inclusive. Like they love the crafting community. So they're not like pushing out knitters or anything like that.
Right.
They just want to be loved.
They're
and
like
be
Hufflepuffs.
accepted. Exactly.
I mean, don't take offense to that if you're a Gryffindor or a Ravenclaw.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like,
they're friendly.
Yeah.
They're friendly. We love the
Yeah.
vibes. And they're also very fast. Like you were saying, like you can create projects much faster.
yeah,
But it consumes a lot more yarn.
right.
So there is that. They're also very like texture forward. So where knitters are concerned with drape and how things flow, crocheters, it's much more structured. So they focus
Yeah.
on like the different textures that they can create, and I think it's very cool.
Yeah, I
So-
like that. That's cool. I love that. First of all, I think this is a really good representation of the
I thought so
crochet.
too.
It's so perfect.
Yeah, and then like the one thing that they kind of hang their hat on though, is that to this day, crochet actually can't be replicated by machines.
Yes, I learned this actually in our comments. So we
Yes.
commented on one of our other videos, and I was like, oh, that's fascinating.
Yes.
And it makes sense because of the technique. Yes, it might be easier to learn, but a machine can't learn it. So
Exactly.
you know?
So that's their thing where they're like, okay, well, you're looking down on us, but a machine's doing what you can do. So that's kind of what they like.
Yeah, that's so
Their little,
interesting.
push
Their-
back to
yeah,
the
their little
community.
brownie point star on the top. I love that.
So like, here's the thing: is I went through a lot of different like videos, comment sections, Reddit boards,
Yeah.
just trying to understand like where is the animosity today?
Yeah.
And so this is kind of what the fighting sounded like to me. So like crocheters are saying like they are being looked down on.
Yeah.
Like there were some people saying that they will go to like specialty yarn stores, and the second that they say that like they crochet,
There's like a
little
little bit of like, oh,
side
right.
eye. There's one girl, she was saying she worked at a fabric store and she was a crocheter before she learned to knit, and so they had her work in the back of the store.
Oh my gosh. Crocheters go in the back.
Crocheters in the back. Yeah, which I was just like, okay, that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
But then knitters are in the comments saying like, this is a very one-sided beef. Like we don't have beef with crocheters.
Yeah.
You're making this up.
Oh yeah,
Like, so
I'm sure, right?
they're
Yeah.
pushing back and saying like, this is all in your head, and
Yeah.
I don't understand where this is coming from.
Sounds like something I've heard from a ex-boyfriend. At some point.
right.
Like, I don't know. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I've heard it before.
We've heard it before. And then the other thing is like when crocheters say, well, this can't be replicated by machine, whereas knitting can.
Yeah.
The comeback from knitters is like, okay, well, AI can make music. Does that mean that like actually made, human made music is less than just because AI can make it? Like,
yeah, I mean,
same
it's
as for a
a
machine.
fair argument.
I think it's a fair argument.
It's a fair argument. It's interesting.
Yeah, so there was like a little bit, but I would say this. After all my digging, after all the reading, everything that I learned, I think honestly, overwhelmingly, I found a lot more support than I found hate.
I love that.
So while I don't doubt that there is beef within the community,
or like some sub-segments of the community,
exactly. There's definitely, still some weirdness, and there's absolutely, like, in history, we saw much more kind of a rub between the communities.
Yeah.
I think today people recognize that, like, hey, we're all crafters.
Yeah.
We're all learning. We're all creating.
Yeah.
And just the ability to make anything nowadays by yourself is freaking
pretty
cool.
Great. Yeah. And I feel like I've seen a lot of creators, like, as I've done research on different episodes, I've seen a lot of creators that do both.
Yeah.
And use both for different things, which I think makes a ton of sense, right? And as we've learned, the term fiber arts or fiber craft exists because it isn't like an umbrella of like multiple types of different forms of art, which is, I mean, it makes sense. And from my experience, which was, I was so surprised to learn about the beef, because I'm like, for my interactions with anyone who does either, I hadn't detected it. So, I mean, I get it. I understand it now, but it's fascinating.
It is. But I think today, overwhelmingly, like, the communities are much more supportive.
Yeah.
I think you will always find people who are, just looking down on others or finding some reason to fight. But I really think that, like, the general sentiment is they're very supportive. They recognize that there is pros and cons to each, and they each serve their own.
I love that
place.
That's part of one of the reasons why I like learning about these little, this community is really large.
Yeah.
So, like, communities that I am new to or don't have a lot of context around, the reason I get so sucked into these rabbit holes and I get so excited about learning about them is exactly because of that. It's like I love seeing people who are very passionate about what they do and very passionate about the things that they produce and make, because I feel the same way. Like, I pick up hobbies all the time that are just like, like, I paint.
Yeah.
I've done like mosaics. I do random crafty things. And when I get on something, I get like crazy about it.
Same.
And seeing other people who are doing that with their own craft makes me happy.
Absolutely. I think, like, at the end of the day, it's find your passion, find what lights you up, dig into it. I think that's what it's all about. So that is the tea of the beef between the knit and crochet communities.
That was quality tea.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Cheers to knitters
and crocheters
and everything in between.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Let's take a sip of tea.